Hey everyone, you are very lucky people because you're seeing the pilot episode of a brand new venture in Slice Radio history. Yay!
Yay!
Yay.
It's going to be called An Interesting Podcast because I thought, should we go with entertaining? Should we go with an entertaining pod? Maybe we can cross over to an entertaining podcast from interesting to entertaining. So we'll go with an entertaining podcast. And with me, I'm Dan from The Dan Show on Slice Radio. We've got Ashley from Her Story podcast for Slice Radio and Jamie Stedman from The Whole Human podcast.
That's right.
Hey, thanks for joining.
Happy to be here.
Ashy, can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Okay, yes. So thank you. Her Story for Slice Radio is a podcast. I look through music, through the cultural statements that music makes. I talk to guests, and my aim is to bring in chats about feminine, LGBTQI plus. I've probably left some people out there. Gender fluid, Indigenous issues, and representation in music.
Well, that sounds very interesting, young lady. And who are some of the guests that you've had on?
I'm having fun. So far, we've done one academic one, and I talked to Dr. Susan Hopkins, who's associate professor at the University of Southern Queensland, and she works through the USQ College. That was really interesting. We talked about media, how the media treat female musicians, and how Britney Spears and Courtney Love, two different streams of music, ended up being sort of the same given their treatment. So we've also talked to Georgia Mack from Camp Cope. We've talked to, this week, we're talking to Sienna Lippin. She's based in Atlanta and as well Detroit. Who else?
Over in cool America.
Pardon?
Over in cool America.
Yeah, over in cool America. What's wrong with Australia though?
Nothing. It's
Who
also
else
cool.
Have we talked to?
Well, local legend Clancy Pye. Do you remember talking to her?
Clancy Pye. I think the full list. I think you need to take in the full list by going to sliceradio.com.au.
Yeah, you've had some really great guests, I have to admit. And a lot of you.
And we're talking to Shane, our Sydney correspondent, soon because gigs are back on. Just a little bit.
Back on. Game on, Stedo.
Came on in New South Wales anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's going to be good for Sydney as our biggest city to get back to some sort of normality and do entertainment again, Stedo. Have you missed out on many entertainment options that you were going to do that you didn't?
No. None. No, I'm really glad it's all going to be back on. I am feeling a bit odd about how it's going to work with the government's whole double vaccination rules and regs. I assume for the next month or so it'll be a bit weird for people. I mean, today we can go to Big W and shop freely. Tomorrow we can't. That's kind of screwed up.
Yes.
But I guess we'll all get used to it and work it out one way or another. Come December, apparently it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's all very weird. Have they got it right? Who knows? Do I care? Not that much.
How many times do you go to Big W, Stedo?
Well, as you know, Ash, in this town, our options are limited. So I am forced sometimes as one of the only options to have to go there. Do I care about being double vaccinated? Not a jot. Am I double vaccinated? Of course. But others are allowed to choose either way. That's their right. For the next month or so, having that option kind of forced on us. Bit rude.
It is. I don't know. People will be saying, well, is that legal? Is that's going to be the conversation, I guess?
I agree. Vaccination passports, everyone's going, well, we're going back to all sorts of drama. But, hey, our kids have to have a vaccination passport right now, have had for years, to get into childcare and other facilities. And we never batted an eyelid. But now, because we're so knowledgeable, we go, oh, no, not my thing. Look,
Taking away
I don't
my
really mind.
rights.
I don't mind. And I don't agree with having choice taken away from people. But unprecedented times call for unprecedented thinking.
Yes, we've learned a lot from this pandemic. We'll do differently with the next one, maybe.
Have we learnt, though?
Well, we've got a lot of data.
I guess we're going to have another one.
We had one previously. It just, we weren't so cool about it. If everyone would like to cast their minds back to swine flu that killed over 200,000 people across the globe, the only difference was it was way more lethal. So it died out too quick. Or too quick for it to survive.
Yes.
It doesn't quite kill as quick.
It was a real bugger, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah, well, I had a little visit thanks to swine flu, which has kind of led me on this whole mental health journey.
Segue, did they decide
and
that
that's
you...
a bit of a segue there.
I know some stuff.
Did they decide that they did decide that you had swine flu, didn't they, or similar?
Yeah, the World Health Organization rang me randomly one day and said, we think you had swine flu, and still not quite sure. Sure they are now, they just haven't rang me. And that the only issue was that my version of it was so virile that they couldn't tell. I should have died. They don't know why I didn't. Nobody does, but here I am.
So just to get you up to speed, Stedo nearly died from swine flu. Okay, everybody? Okay, no biggie.
Little coma for a few months. And
old coma boy. Loves a coma. He loves a good coma. His wife's been saying he's been in and out of comas for years previously, but now
I tried to be in one this morning, but the kids wouldn't let me.
Less of a funny joke. And where do you think you caught that strain of swine flu? Obviously you've thought about it, so you're going to give me a very good answer.
Yeah, clearly I've cast my mind back. Look, they don't know. I was at the time burning the candle at both ends, physically and metaphorically speaking. Had been ill on and off for quite a few months, and my body was just at breaking point. So me and a couple of mates went to Sydney, got on the grog, probably there somewhere. Yeah. The big specialist in Sydney said it was a perfect storm, just hit with a stray bullet at the wrong time, basically. Not sure there's a good time to get hit with a stray bullet, but apparently it was the wrong time.
No, stray bullets are terrible. We don't get too many of them in our territory, thank goodness. Well,
yeah, if
actually,
one hit you, Dan, it wouldn't be stray. It'd be fired at you on purpose.
No, I'm very popular amongst a wide group of people, so I don't need to worry about that. So, Ashley, just to tie your podcast up in a nice, neat little bow, you're doing some great work here. There's lots of really great guests. Alex Lay is someone that most people into music will know. Teen Jesus and the Gene Teasers, newcomers.
Teenage Jones.
Teenage Jones are another band that's So you're doing great work there, but let's hand it over to Jamie Steadman to talk about his new podcast that's launching on October 19th. Is it?
Yep.
And tell us a bit about it, Stedo.
Whole Human Podcast is just a little bit of a passion. It's casual conversations on mindset, mental health, and just people being their best selves. So it's pretty vast, pretty broad, but just allows me to talk to people, which I really like doing. And, each of us in one way or another are dealing with our own mindset and mental health issues. we could all do better in that space sometimes. And we're all just trying to be our best selves. So I just like to talk to people and see what comes of it.
Yes, you've got a whole business built up around it now, and you're flourishing as near as I know.
It's going really well. Yeah.
Background about.
Sorry.
Can we get a bit of background, sort of where you come from, where you've developed this passion project?
So probably the coma originally, to be honest. So get sick, have a life epiphany, realise that, hey, you know what? I don't actually like being a prison officer anymore. At that stage, I was a prison officer. Was doing quite well for myself. Did get some level of mental health training in the prison system. And then I realised that I wanted more. I wanted to know more. It just led me down that path. I had my own little battle at the end of it. I was supposed to be well. And of course, I was driving to an appointment one day and I thought, I think I'll just drift into the oncoming traffic and take care of all this. That'll make it much easier. And I didn't, because I didn't want to miss that appointment. I didn't want to let that person down. So it was very thoughtful of me. Look, it was serious enough that I took my seatbelt off. So it was kind of getting out of the car going, holy shit, things aren't real good here.
It was a cry for help to yourself.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Because you knew you could handle it, or you were ready for help?
I have no idea, Dan. At the time, I wasn't thinking particularly straight. We had little bloke was, 3? Bella Grace had only just been born. Things weren't great. I was still trying to recover, trying to work, trying to cope with all the stress, and it just felt easier at the time if I wasn't around. I kept thinking to myself, what did I survive for? It seems a bit pointless. I think it'd be easier if I wasn't here. So, which is clearly not a great place to be in for anybody. And I didn't know how to ask for help at that time. And then I went to the doc and I filled out all the paperwork for mental health stuff. And he's sort of like, okay, we need to put you on some drugs. I said, no, I'll be okay, thanks. I just needed to know that. I don't know why. It's not what I would recommend to anybody else. Just that's how I deal with it. So basically I just started, I peeled back the layers, went walking the next morning, started eating really well, taking care of myself again. It didn't happen overnight, and it did take a little bit of time. Still takes time. Still working on it every day. But it got better quick, simply because I refocused, reset. Again, that doesn't make it great. That doesn't mean it'll work for everyone. It just did for me at that time.
No, you were lucky. You were strong enough to survive, and you're doing well. And if anyone asks me what you're up to, I always tell them you're a mental coach, and that clears it straight up.
So I am a mindset and mental health coach. I'm running a program for local councils. I'm talking to businesses in resilience, communication, and just being your best self. Pathways to do that. I work for a guy in New Zealand called Ollie Wood and the Meta Project. He has a ton of clients all across the planet, and I literally speak to them about their mindset and mental health to try help them get out of their own way so they can be their best selves.
And the podcast has got Slice Radio alumni in the background helping you out. That's Denise.
You're talking about Denise Mills? Yeah, I probably couldn't do it without Denise. So she helps me with lots of my stuff. I can do a lot of talking, can't do a lot of anything else. So yeah, I definitely need her counsel.
She's Denise's The Shift podcast for Slice Radio. Well, not for Slice Radio. I mean, she's part of the family, and she's stopped her podcast for the time being. We hope she goes back to it. She may never, but that's life. And
it was very good. It was a very enjoyable podcast. So
yeah, she had some great guests, and I'm sure she touched a lot of people. But yeah, you got to have the time.
They're good to listen back to be honest.
They're good to listen back to. They're there.
They're forever.
They're forever.
They're forever, and people might appreciate them
Oh, you'll
2
always
years
learn
from now.
something. I spoke to a guy in America the other day who listened to the podcast I did with Denise, and as a result, he listened to a few of the other ones, and now he's following you guys through Slice Radio. But he really enjoyed Denise's chat with, Catherine Rains, I want to say. He's a big fan of hers, and so he listened to that. Yeah, lots of nice feedback, which is really cool.
They've all done well. They've all done well.
Yeah,
she's not had one turkey numbers-wise. Look, we're not going to talk numbers. Now, what sort of guests have you got coming up on the show?
Mainly just people I have connected with. First one is Guy. First episode will be Rob Vigano. Rob's 20-year vet in the police force. Ended up leaving the police with pretty serious PTSD and some other big health problems, mental health problems, as an inspector. So because he crossed over so many different, or a large area, he's seen some pretty nasty stuff. And he talks about that pretty openly. Look, guys, if you're not doing well, I probably wouldn't listen to that podcast, to be honest. It's pretty brutal. But it's raw and it's real, and that makes me pretty proud. There we go. Now I can't talk to you.
Are you right?
I think my ear fell out.
Well, I back in our rugby days, I only knew Rob a bit, a medium amount, a lot less than others and more than some. And he always seemed like such a he really was the most laid back and cruisiest of, you might say too much.
And exactly that, and that's a really good point, Dan, because he is or was that guy, and for him to have such a big turnaround, it certainly it just shows you this stuff doesn't discriminate, it doesn't care. So
yeah, he never wanted to do anything as long as I've known him except be a police officer, and he did it.
And he did it with aplomb, and no other fruit, just the plums. So he, oh dear, he, to walk away from a job he loved, with some things taken out of his hands, choices taken out of his hands, was pretty tough. Again, not going to give too much away. Listen to the podcast or don't. Either way.
But do.
Other guests, but do. Other guests, Pete Slider Sutton, who also talks about some pretty serious mental health issues that he's been dealing with, and even more recently to the point where he checked himself into an institute for a little while. Then we have Richard Turnbull, who is really well known throughout the globe for his rugby and further coaching prowess. He's so connected, it's not funny. He just comes on and talks about metabolic health and its relation to our mental health, which is really cool. And then Sam RC, the boxer, the returned boxer, is our next guest. And Sam's also very open about his journey and what it means to him to be back in the ring. So that's it so far. There's a few others I've got up my sleeve, but we'll leave them up there for now.
Yeah,
leave them up your sleeve with your giant biceps that you showed us a bit earlier.
No, there's heaps of room these days.
Look, hey, what do you need all that extra bulk for?
Yeah, that's
You're live.
Well, my biceps fell down to my stomach.
You're forgetting around now. You're not bulky. You're in and out of traffic. You're zipping.
There's no zipping. There's absolutely no zipping.
Right.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, Dan. It helps me connect to people, and that's something I love to do. So.
Well. That's
thanks for sharing, Stedo.
Yes, we're really excited to launch the show and for it to be out there and to support the heck out of it. It's going to be really important show for people because it might actually, unlike my entertaining interviews, it might sort of change some people's lives, which would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Oh, and that's one of the other things, the last part, being your best human, is what it's about, is Rob shares some of the things he wished he'd learnt when he first joined the force, some of the tools he wished he had up his sleeve. So does CMRC, so does Pete Sutton. So, and then you got Richard coming in the other way, talking about how we can enhance and improve our mental health through the way we treat our stomachs, therefore our bodies. You know what? I don't hope to change the world, but if I can help one person take a different path, that'd be pretty cool.
I've never really talked much to Richard Turnbull because I don't have anything intelligent enough to say. And I thought, maybe just sidestep it. But I understand he's a very nice man.
He's a wonderful human being, very giving guy, and is very he's happy to give his knowledge away. Extremely connected across the planet, which is kind of crazy.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about my show just to finish off here. Finish off a first episode of an entertaining podcast. We thought we might be interesting, and then we thought we might even get entertaining. So what I do is I shoot for 2 interviews per week. They're basically just with performers. Could be an actor, could be a musician, comedian, and anyone in entertainment. Really, I've had some facilitators of entertainment. Someone from Arts Out West, and also someone from the National Film and Sound Archive. But coming up this week, I was really, really excited to have, I hope this works, this man. Bam. Is that working for you guys? Are you seeing my white-haired gentleman, Paul Myers, on the screen? Yes. Paul Myers is a really experienced music journalist, and he's talked to almost everyone you can think of, Elton John to Todd Rundgren, to just everyone you can think of. He's written 4 books on music, including 3 books on music and 1 on comedy, including one on the Bare Naked Ladies, which has got to be an interesting read, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. What an influential band.
Is he Mike Myers' brother or something?
He is, but that's not the point.
Cool. No, but I've just noticed because you put 90,000 photos up that.
Yeah, that's right. Look at him go. Yeah. And I have a really great chat with him, and he was so generous with his time.
Awesome.
And then the second interview for the upcoming episode is with a young Aussie singer-songwriter called Piper Butcher. And she is just there, and there's a load of pictures of Piper. She's based in Newcastle. She's been going for about 5 years. She's just got an EP out called September. It's done really well, and she's looking forward to getting back out into the community and doing her thing. She's doing great work on the socials, and she's just a really talented young lady. She already plays guitar well and sings really well, so she's nailed that. So she's just it's just down to doing the songwriting, which could be the hardest part, I suppose. Not if you're Paul McCartney. He seems pretty good at it.
Some people enjoy it.
Some people, yeah. Yeah, I've written a few songs. Ash, you've written a few songs. Today, you written any songs?
Yeah, I made one up for the children this morning.
Well, how'd it go?
Something about poo and wee.
Eat your breakfast or there'll be trouble.
No official songs from me.
Eat your breakfast, I'm gonna have a breakdown. Something like that. Well, look, hey, we're not formal here. We're just having fun, and this has been the first episode of an entertaining podcast on Slice Radio, and we'll say thanks very much to Ashley from Her Story podcast for Slice Radio. Bye.
Welcome. Happy to give my time.
And Stedo Stedman, the upcoming Whole Human podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, and yeah, looking forward to it.
And I'll say bye for now. Oh, I should have a sign off like say good day to your mum. What are you going to say, Ashy?
I was going to say, don't ensure that you head to www.sliceradio.com.au for our full range of podcasts. We have one that I really enjoy is Charlie Fat. Sounds like spirit. And then we've got a bunch of US people.
US
We've
imports.
got some comedy and some what else? There's a quiz one.
Yeah.
And tell me out, Dan, what else have we got?
Well, look, we'll talk about them in all the episodes because we'll probably have all of those guys on. But there's loads of stuff going on there.
Head to the Patreon, slip us a couple of dollars to give back to artists.
Not Stedo.
Boo.
We'll monetize Stedo later. Yep. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. My sign off will be name your beards, just not Stuart, because mine's Stuart.
Oh, my sign off's going to be keep those nipples pointing forwards, guys.
Sounds no good.
I don't know. That's not very good. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now. I'm going to pause this.